aux citoyens de Biddeford. Bienvenue à l'émission sur la télévision de Public Access. Le titre de cette émission est Meet the Agenda. What we're trying to do is inform people about the upcoming City Council meeting agenda. And the City Council meeting this next week is on May 1st, Tuesday, May 1st at 6 p.m. I'll briefly go through what some of the items are going to be, and then Matt will give us a consideration of the minutes for the last meeting and go through what happened there.
Sounds like a good
First,
idea.
there's going to be a roll call. Then after that, there's the Pledge of Allegiance. And then after that, there's adjustments to the agenda if there are any to be made. Then this month, there's two proclamations to be made. One is a proclamation of Kids to Park Day, which is going to be on May 19th. And the other one is a proclamation for National Prayer Day, which is going to be on May 3rd. Also, there's a special presentation of the Police Department Annual Report, which is usually given by staff. And then we come to the consideration of the minutes of the last meeting, and I'll let Matt talk about some of the highlights of the last meeting.
I will do that. And a couple notes before I do. One, on the Kids to Park Day, I mean, a good reminder that we have some amazing parks and places to get outside here in Biddeford. I'm actually heading to Timber Point right after we tape this. Get out there and enjoy it. It's awesome. Glad to see that. On the police presentation, one reminder on these agendas, when you see presentation, sometimes there's confusion about it, is there a question, can I comment? Presentations, there's no comment, no questions. It's an informative. A lot of times it's city staff or a local organization, so that should be good. On the minutes, it was a fairly quick meeting, last meeting. The City Hall reorganization, which is we'll see on the agenda and we'll talk about today, that was actually removed from the meeting last time. The Finance Committee had a number of questions, so they chose not to vote on that last time. We decided to go ahead. If you recall, there was a wood chipper and an excavator. Mm-hmm. Those were approved. We went ahead with that. Then there was the discussion about allowing the serving of alcohol in non-contiguous space, I believe was the wording, downtown, which was a great effort with some of our legislators to get state law in line there. There's really good discussion about that, and you can tell the city councilors really want to do it right. There was an amendment made and voted on that order in terms of the serving of alcohol downtown in particular, and because there was an amendment, there's actually a first reading last time and a vote, and then now will be in this meeting you'll see a second reading. So anytime something is changed, if there's public comment that sways a city councilor, they decide to make a change to the order, that basically means that there needs to be a vote then, but then a vote at a subsequent meeting, which we're having there. And we had talked about the industrial park signs. So there's an effort, it's called wayfinding, to make the various industrial parks. So you've got Robert Dodge, the Alfred Road Business Park, Biddeford Industrial Park, the Airport Industrial Park. It's about $85,000 cost to redo the signs, so they're all consistent. That was improved. And then last piece I wanted to note was the city manager in his report. At the end of the meeting, the city council president, the mayor, and the city manager each have the opportunity to address the council and the public. One of the things he noted that I think is important is that there's been passage. We're getting closer on finalizing laws at the state level regarding marijuana, which means that there's going to need to be some decisions made at the local level. I know this is something that there are a lot of views in the public. This is the perfect kind of situation where it's not on the agenda at this council meeting. If you want to address this and sort of get ahead of it, and you have any view on it, this is something you could discuss at the public comment section of this upcoming meeting. So that's why I wanted to flag that. So that is it for the minutes of what came out of last week.
Okay, on the agenda for the orders of the day, there's authorization purchase of automated waste packer truck, and also authorization contract for installation of conduit on Bangor Savings Bank property, which is part of the Lincoln Street project. and approval.
one-
Oops, go ahead.
Noted a couple things. So on that first one, there's been a lot of discussion about public works and especially budget season. It seems like this is an investment that there's a lot of support for, but that's trying to make the most of limited staff. And then I had a note on the conduit Bangor Savings Bank property.
We've already authorized, the council already authorized the Lincoln Street project. And I guess this is something to get authorization for the city to do work on Bangor Savings Bank property, but it's city conduit, I would imagine,
Right, and they're trying to save some money here by
putting things underground.
and staging it in a way where they're not duplicating work with that work
Right.
across the street.
Right.
The one thing that stood out to me is just, I'll be interested to see what this means is, it's electrical and video detection utility, which I did some Googling when I saw this. A video detection, it might be surveillance, but I'm not actually sure what that is, so it'd be interesting to see if that gets discussed.
Yeah, yeah.
The other part is, there's been a lot of discussion around where are funds coming for these various projects. The way this reads is 1/3 coming from outside grants. I believe there's a main transportation grant. The other 2/3 of this coming from TIF money. So, those are the two things I wanted to note there.
Okay. Also, another agenda item will be the approval/taking of aviation easements, air rights by eminent domain for the Biddeford Municipal Airport of 5 properties, and these will be discussed at the meeting.
And on this one, I think there's been a lot of confusion over time about the intent here, and I think the best thing people can do is attend the meeting and express questions or concerns if you have them, in terms of, is this about making the airport a bigger airport that can service bigger planes, more planes, or is it about something that's more of trying to be proactive in terms of safety? I believe it's the latter, but the airport's a great resource that we have here. If you have concerns around this, or you want to support this, this might be an important item to show up, and you'll have the opportunity to comment, given that there's a vote.
Okay, and then the next item they're gonna go into the committee of the whole, which will discuss the moving of City Hall offices and possible action to be taken. And so City Hall renovations are going to be the main discussion here, and probably the reallotment of City Hall spaces.
And there's a ton of material on the website about this specifically, and the Finance Committee had some questions last time around it. To break out the numbers and then just a couple points, it looks like the order is written in such a way that there's some leeway with a contingency piece of this, but that we're looking at a plan that's about just under $38,000 and won't exceed that coming out of it. That's going to, it sounds like, make things much more efficient for a number of teams. The other thing it's going to do is free up some of the retail space below City Hall. I'm not sure if that's the Heart of Biddeford space and codes, or if it's just codes. One thing I noticed wasn't in here is a projection. It might be in the budget. Is a projection of revenue that will be generated, but a nice benefit here will be down where at least codes is. I believe the plan is to start renting that out, which would be income for taxpayers. One thing I'm not clear on, well, two things I'm not clear on this, but if people have these questions, these are things that you could attend and try to dig in on. One is there has been discussion in the past around code and safety in City Hall. I remember windows being part of that discussion. I'm not sure if going ahead with this plan means that we're addressing those or not. No matter what, it seems like a good step in the right direction. Mm-hmm. But that was one thing, and then the other is we had approved raising money for the City Theater, which I also believe Some of that will be for the clock tower, maybe parts of City Hall. But does this overlap with that or not? I'm just not sure. But again, the price tag on it is about $38,000. So that is that.
And then there's to be 2 appointments made, one of Karina Walter for the Historic Preservation Commission, and also of Karina Walter for the Project Canopy Committee.
Which is, I don't know Karina, but kudos to her for getting involved. It's awesome to see new names on there. I do think this is a good chance to remind folks, there are a lot of committees, you're involved. What committee are you on?
Capital Projects Committee.
And you've served on the Charter Revision Commission in the past. Anybody, well, Charter was, I guess, a special situation, but a lot of these committees, anybody in the community can apply to be part of them, which is something that we certainly encourage folks to do that. It looks like Karina did that. The materials, you actually can see her application if you're curious what it takes. But it's the more people we got involved, the better. So this is great.
Absolutely. Also, then it'll be the public addressing the council. 5 minutes limit per speaker, and it's allowed for a 30-minute duration, okay? This is a good part of the meeting for you to go and talk to the council about any concerns you might have or any improvements you might have for the city, any ideas you might have for the betterment of the city, and they'll sit there and listen to you, whatever you have to tell them.
So one thing I wanted to note here, I had the chance in the last week to meet with a bunch of residents that, on different topics, different perspectives. And I was actually a little bit surprised. Maybe we can do a better job of explaining. A lot of people are confused about what public comment is. And I had a couple people express there was one particular meeting where they felt like they weren't allowed to comment on certain things, so they actually left the meeting. This public addressing the council piece in this 5-minute piece, and although it's 30-minute total, the council can actually practically extend that, and I think they have in the past if there's more people. This is designed for you to be able to go and express questions, concerns, support for things that are not on today's agenda to try to get ahead of them.
Yeah, in other words, this is a special part of every meeting where the public is allowed to address the council. Whereas the other addressing the council is whenever a motion is made, okay, it is brought to the floor for people to comment on. There you're only allowed 3 minutes to comment specifically on the item that's being discussed.
Correct. So, and that is the piece, I think where it gets confusing for people is a lot of things overlap, right? If you, let's make up an example here. Let's say there was a vote that's about to happen on establishing ordinances around retail marijuana shops. Mm-hmm. Let's say that's being voted on. You've got 3 minutes to address that particular
motion, right.
But if you're there and what you want to talk about is a slightly different topic, still call it marijuana related because there's a lot of moving parts with that, you can still speak in the 5 minutes.
That's right.
Even if there was something that was in the same vein but a different topic. So I think that's just really important because this is such a great opportunity for the public to get involved. The
3-minute speaking time frame for a particular subject that's being discussed is so that they can get some kind of an input on that particular subject, not on anything else.
Exactly. Which there have been some great pieces of public comment lately, and also I think a lot of people are noticing this. Awesome. There's been a lot of great discussion between the councilors too. You're seeing votes that are a little bit more split, which I think gets to better outcomes because there's more discussion happening. So kudos to everyone who's getting involved in it. I know it can be super intimidating to show up, but I think you'll find it's a rewarding experience, and it definitely helps make the community stronger for you to get involved.
It may be intimidating, but that's what government is all about. You have to be part of your city government.
I wholeheartedly believe, regardless of people's views, we are at our best when all voices are considered, which people have the chance to do that. So maybe closing this up, I don't want to miss the executive session on labor contract negotiations. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
And so people know executive session no votes happen there. It's in a private setting that's not televised. Usually there's some legal reason or making those discussions public would put the city at a disadvantage from a negotiating standpoint. In this case, it could be fire, for instance, and I think it is, but we don't know for sure. They're talking about union contracts, and city officials need to be able to have some of that discussion behind closed doors, so that's what this is. So, a couple things just wrapping up. We're doing this hopefully to help more people get involved and and be informed. Wanted to note, budget meetings are happening right now. The budget process is arguably the most critical process, every year that everything stems from, because you're making your decisions, putting stakes in the ground about what's going to happen with taxes, and the implications of that, and what services we can provide as a community and what we prioritize. There's a lot of information available. The city manager has done a great job generally about getting information about the budget out. The next meeting is noon on this Tuesday, and then from there, the budget committee will give it to the city council sometime soon, and then we'll start. I believe there'll be 2 public hearings, which, as I'm talking to folks that have been involved, in decades past, people recount stories of, hey, we had to move the meeting over to the city theater or some other venue because so many people showed up so passionate, and you look back at the old newspaper, you see the letters to the editor. It would be so great to see that come back, no matter what people are advocating for. If we challenge ourselves to get involved, I think that'd be a good thing.
If people are thinking it, then we need to have the communication involved. The other thing that really is big today is diversity. Now, what does diversity mean? Diversity means not only male, but also female input. Not only white, but also other ethnic backgrounds, and other races, It's somebody has something to contribute if they're there to say something.
Right.
So we need to take all of that in and then make a deliberation of what is best for the city of Biddeford.
And the best for the city of Biddeford, I think, is such an important point of where I think sometimes we go awry is when discussions end up being about you're either for the best interests in moving the city ahead or you're not. Yeah. And what I'm hearing from folks, regardless of the issue, is I am all for moving the city ahead. I just have a slightly different vision of how we get there. And I think that's when we're at our best, when we're seeing and we're hearing that, especially at a time when there's a lot of diversity in Biddeford at this point. And there are, what I'm hearing is people that are new to town. I just had a wonderful discussion with somebody who just moved here with family and started a business here. People that have grown up here forever. Everybody wants to work together. It's just a matter of connecting folks, which just keep chipping away.
Well, we thank you very much for listening to this episode of Meet the Agenda. And we hope to see you at the City Council meeting on May 1st, Tuesday evening. And as always, merci aussi aux citoyens qui ne comprennent pas l'anglais trop, mais qui essayent à suivre ce qui se passe dans la ville de Biddeford. Thank you very much.